name's Jordan and I am the host of the podcast #NeverAlone, and this is our first episode where we will be talking about anxiety. So for most people, anxiety would be extreme worrying maybe and stressing out about certain situations, potentially for no good reason. We're going to delve into that a bit more, find out what can actually cause it, how we can identify it, and best of all what we can do to manage it. And it is actually Australia's #1 mental health condition, with 1 in 4 Australians experiencing it, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men. So I think that it's quite important that it's our first topic. And we are going to be joined by Ian Nesbitt, who is an ontological coach and spiritual mentor. It's a bit of a mouthful. And he's going to be talking about his personal experiences and how to deal with anxiety. And then we've also got Grace Hart-Davies, who is someone who has experienced anxiety herself and is just going to share a bit of her story with us. Hi, we're here with Ian Nesbitt, and I have some questions here which I'm going to ask him so we can get a better insight into anxiety. So, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You've prepared some questions for me, so make my job easier.
Nice.
Ontological coaching.
Yes.
Give us a bit of a brief description about that, and then how you got into that line of work.
Yeah, okay. So basically the difference between normal coaching and ontological coaching is often normal coaching is about behavior, so it's about results. It's about, you're starting here and you want to get there. Mm-hmm. How do we do that? With ontological coaching, it's more about who you're being. So it's more about who you're being in your life, how you care for your friends, how you care for your family, how you care at work. So who you're being in these different situations. So, we're all aware that we're humans, but we don't put a lot of attention on the being side of human being. So that's what I do in my coaching, is I'm bringing people back to recognizing themselves as a being. Mm-hmm. So, that's
not the cookie cutter mold that we kind of get put into, or like you were saying before, like who we think we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be achieving and stuff.
That's it, yeah.
Stripping it back.
So it's basically the being that's looking out of your eyes, that's listening through your ears, that feels through your skin. Yeah. It's bringing yourself back to that, and then realizing that we have this psychology, this psychological mental aspect of ourselves, which is where anxiety exists, that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so it's quite an in-depth area of study, not just even from a psychological point, the fact that you're actually coaching others to be able to get into that self-development journey. So what kind of triggered you to be like, this is what I'm going to do now?
Yeah, look, it started, I think, because I suffered from anxiety myself, but I didn't realize that's what it was.
Okay.
And I got an opportunity in America to get a record contract, and I noticed that during that time I was struggling with doubt. And I kept having these feelings of not being able to make myself do things that were there to do, that I knew were great opportunities. Mm-hmm. And it ended up falling through. And so I went back to, I was in America, I went back to England, and I gave myself a really hard time about the whole situation. But I really wanted to find out what was at the source of the doubt that was there, and the anxiety that sort of brings up. Mm-hmm. So I went on this basically, what have we been now, 20 odd year journey of discovering what that was about and how that came about. And so it's really realizing that our identity, actually the foundation of our identity, is doubts. Mm-hmm. That's where we're coming from, that's where it's coming from. Yeah. So that mental side of ourselves is constantly doubting and being uncertain about things. And if you exacerbate that, it can go to the point of being panic and so on, and be quite destructive.
Yeah, so kind of like a self-sabotaging mentality. You feel like you don't deserve anything, so therefore, as things kind of come along, you're kind of making them fall through, or not giving it your all, and therefore making sure that it doesn't eventuate.
Well, you've got to make that distinction. That's the thing. What I've realized is that in our psyche, we have these characters that we play out. Okay. So I actually worked out, because over years of seeing people come with the same issues all the time, and I'm struggling with anxiety in this area, I'm struggling with anxiety with my business or relationships or different things. Mm-hmm. I started to see the same patterns showing up over and over and over again, and people saying the same things over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so then I started to realize that those patterns were actually like characters. They're like characters that we play. And then we play these characters out thinking that this is who we are. And what I've realized is that there's actually 3 characters, and these 3 characters actually keep you corralled. So you play one, and then you try to get out of that one by playing another one, and then you try to get out of that one by playing another one, and then that one brings you back to the first one, and so you get corralled into this limited way of being. And what happens is the speed of that, if it goes faster and faster and faster and faster, you end up getting severe anxiety.
Okay.
But the fundamental sort of dynamic of it is doubt and uncertainty and worry and concern.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And so we play these characters out thinking this is me, being worried and concerned and doubtful and full of, uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
But in actual fact, it's a psychological mechanism.
Okay.
That's not us.
Is it like, I'm just kind of thinking like that whole adult mentality, like you got to be an adult, you got to, like, if you're not worried about something,
That's more of it.
Yeah.
So this is what's interesting is that one of the characters is who you are when you feel powerless.
Okay.
Yeah. Another character is trying to get the hell away from that character. So it's who you are trying to be successful.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's a third, and you play those 2 characters out, and then there's a third character which is more about, I've had enough of this, I'm out of here. Right, and that just leaves the situation, doesn't want to take responsibility for everything.
Okay.
So you get caught up in this feedback loop of
Okay.
these particular ways of being.
Could we call that third character like head in the sand character?
An escapist, we call it.
That leads you to feeling more helpless because you have
That's
decided
right.
you haven't done anything about it.
That's right. Basically the disempowered character, the wannabe. The wannabe wants to be successful, it wants to be good, it wants to be nice, it wants to be useful, it wants to be helpful.
Yeah.
And then you've got the escapist which just says, no, I can't deal with this.
What kind of gets us to that escapist level? Because I'm kind of thinking
Well,
the
what
anxiety, the lack of being able to be successful as a helper, as someone who's good at their job, as a good partner or whatever, and then you're like, well, haven't reached where I wanted to be, and go back over here now.
Yeah, that's right. So basically the wannabe can never be what it wants to be. Right?
Yeah.
It can only try to be what it wants to be.
Ceiling mentality.
So what seems to happen is you go from a state of being disempowered to trying to be empowered, to being, it's almost like there's an elastic band attached to them, and he tries to get away, and then it gets flung back, and then it goes away and it gets flung back, and so that anxiety starts to build up. And the only way we can release the pressure of that anxiety is to go into what I used to call the fuck this character.
Yeah.
And I'm out of here,
relate to
right?
that.
And so you start to see that you're playing this game of going, it's like a pendulum swing. You're going back and forth between being disempowered, trying to be empowered, being disempowered, trying to be empowered. And so the escapist you think is a way out. You think it's the way out, but it's actually more of the same.
Yeah.
So it's all part of your ego identity. It's all part of the identity, and this is just a particular way that I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So when that speeds up, that process speeds up. For some people, that can be 1 year to the next. I had a woman in a workshop, and she realized that she was going into escapist exactly once a year.
Wow.
She would change countries, change jobs, change relationships, get the hell out of there and moved on to the next thing. She'd been doing that for 8 years.
Wow.
So, while other people, it's like months.
Did she tell herself that she was a nomad and that she loved to travel and, loved change? Because I feel like in my journey of wanting a bit of stability, you kind of tell yourself that, well, this is what I'm doing. This is, in order to kind of mask.
That's what the wannabe tells you.
Yeah.
So the escapist tells you, that's what the character tells you. So this is what you start to realize is these characters make up who you think you are.
Yeah.
So what you do with the work that I do, what you start to do is you sort of wake up to yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like having a little matrix moment where you wake up to the realizing that this is what's running you.
Okay.
And so, and the anxiety is what's keeping it all in place. It's keeping the loop. And the more you identify with it, the stronger the anxiety gets, the faster it gets.
Yeah.
But anxiety in itself really it's an energy. Like you think about nervousness. Nervousness is the energy that sort of comes up when you're about to do something.
Mm-hmm. Like I perform, so that nervous energy, or even before the cameras start rolling, like you just know that something is going to happen, and there could be opportunities for embarrassment or mistakes or something that comes in there. So
that's
I think, that's like if I was going to sing on stage, like, am I going to hit the wrong note? Like, you think about that and you get a bit
nervous.
That's it, right. So you have thoughts about the impending future, what's going to go wrong, and there's sort of there's a lack of trust in that. So there's an uncertainty and there's a doubt, but you know what it relates to. You're about to speak in front of 10 people, for instance, you're going to have a certain amount of nervousness. If you're going to speak in front of 100 people, you're going to have even more energy. And we're sort of taught, or a lot of people teach, you got to sort of, so you think you've got to push it down and keep a lid on it, But in actual fact, what that does is it just makes you nervous, right?
Yeah.
So instead, what happens is you realize that if you can realize that energy actually just wants to flow out of you, wants to take over you, then you can do that. You can channel that energy, and then you've got the energy to speak to 100 people, right?
I definitely understand that a lot. Like, as someone who has to get up in front of audiences and stuff like that, I was even saying it about today. Like, I just kind of non-phased, and I just have to have faith in myself that when the lights go on and stuff, that I'm like, the energy and nervousness that I'm feeling is going to kind of carry me through to what I need to do. Yes. So yeah.
But anxiety is different.
So anxiety is a bit of a...
So anxiety is where you've got that energy, but you don't know what it's for.
Okay.
So there's no clear reason why it's there. Mm-hmm. So it's energy that doesn't have any clear intention.
It's just there.
It's just
kind
there,
of
and you don't know why it's there, right?
Yeah.
And so, part of the thing with anxiety is understanding what's going on and why it's going on. Mm-hmm. So being able to see what's that. It's a fear of the future.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced in my own experiences of anxiety is that you're afraid of the next. You don't know what's going to happen in the next day. You don't know what's going to happen in the next hour. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes, the next 5, the next 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. The fear and the doubt starts to build up to such a degree that you lose all trust in things working out in a positive way, or a fear of the future, you could say.
So, I mean, like, that can get quite serious, There's stories of people like having anxiety that they're so wrapped that they can't leave their house or, kind of live a normal life. And for, I guess, anyone that would be watching this discussion between you and I in your 20 years of your journey and coaching other people, what have kind of been like the main points that you've found of being able to help you with, kind of getting out of that vicious cycle of characters and, anxiety for no potential reason?
Yeah, well, obviously you have to see how they play out, and that's what I help people do, is see what your own individual expression of those characters are and how they play out. That's what I would do.
So identification would be the first one?
Yes, understanding, and then being able to interrupt that.
Okay.
I mean, interruption is such a massive tool to be able to learn, is the ability to interrupt that feedback loop as it's happening, as it's going on.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know if you want to talk about that more, the coping strategies later, but, what you see is that if you can't interrupt that, you've got no ability to do anything, right?
Yeah.
And that comes down to the fact that you're trying to control something. So the first thing you have to realize is that you can't control anything, right?
Yeah.
You've got to let go of control.
So
right?
First step is identification, and then second is
interruption.
Interruption, and then letting go of the
control. Yeah, because anxiety is often associated with trying to control.
Yeah.
And so then what you see is that if you let go of control, then the only thing you've actually got command of, rather than control of, is you.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it brings you bring yourself back to you.
Okay, great.
And then, to do that, you've got to bring yourself back to your breath. You've got to start to do meditative practices, that type of thing.
Okay.
If you're too wired, you've got to move the energy.
Okay.
You've got to move the energy. You've got to dance. You've got to sing. You've got to move. You've got to run. You've got to do whatever.
So basically, if we're talking about some first kind of steps that we can put into place when we're kind of feeling that anxiety spiral or getting into that feedback loop, would be to kind of just take it all back down to ground level. If you're feeling too stressed out, breathe, sit on the ground, kind of just be really natural, I guess.
Well, you've got to bring yourself back to your breath, because as soon as you bring yourself back to your breath, you're present again.
Yeah.
So you're back into being.
Okay. So be present and not caught up in your thoughts. And then the other one would be, if you're having a lot of energy, just be like a child. run a couple of laps outside,
That's
go
it.
and just kind of put on some Grace.
Or sometimes when you go into the breath, there's emotion there. There's a lot of emotion there, so you got to let the emotion come out.
Okay.
You know, we're taught not to feel emotion, but we've got to let that emotion out.
Okay.
So, you know, that's the bottom line is you know, it's allowing yourself to feel what's there, being okay with what's there, not trying to make it wrong, you know, and then, you know, from there you can do something.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, I think that was quite a lot to be able to go off, and being able to understand the source of anxiety, and you know, some little tips and tricks to, you know, it obviously is a journey, but we're talking about what we can kind of do in the here and now to stop the spiral. So thank you very much for your unique perspective and those techniques. Now we're going to get our next guest onto the couch to join us to talk about some of her personal experiences. Hey, we are here with Grace Hart-Davies. She has kindly agreed to join us to have a chat to me about her particular experience with anxiety. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
So with anxiety and yourself, how long would you say that you've been dealing with that for?
It is a bit of a tricky situation. I guess technically I was diagnosed in 2017.
Yeah.
That would be when someone's like, oh, hold on a second, she's got some weird tendencies there. But looking back, it is clear to see that it developed following a motor vehicle accident in 2013.
Okay.
So I think that's probably when the catalyst,
Yes.
so to speak.
Okay. And so, I mean, like how long would you say, like, roughly? Like, if it's been like 2 years since the official diagnosis, is that when you started getting help? I guess that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
so no, yeah, I know, it was sort of, it went from 0 to 100. I was actually hospitalised in 2017
Okay.
for depression and anxiety,
Yeah.
and I guess that's when everyone kind of was like, oh, right,
Yeah.
now it makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
So there was definitely, you know, signs before that, but
Yeah.
not even, I didn't even click, you know.
Okay.
It was a fluke. Someone said, hold on a second, you know, why are you bringing your dog everywhere with you? And it's, you know, and then I was like, oh, that's not normal, I suppose.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So it was because, like, you know, it's an invisible illness, that's why we're discussing it, because it can develop in these behaviours and tendencies that people are kind of like, oh, I don't really like you when you do that. You know, so hospital's pretty serious way to kind of go about it, you know, kind of really shocks you into getting some assistance with it.
Well, definitely. I guess as well, we were talking about burying our head in the sand. Following the accident, you know, to try and keep control over my life, which is definitely where a lot of my anxiety springs from, is that, you know, concept of the illusion of control.
Yeah.
And you know, following the accident, I did try to keep control over everything, and that even though I knew things were slipping, I was like, no, you can handle it.
Yeah.
That happens to other people. It's not you. You can do it.
Yeah.
And it sort of just left unchecked. It got to a serious point.
Yeah.
And even though I knew it was serious, I still was like, I'll be fine. And it only took an outside perspective.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was the first visit I went to a psychologist, and she's like, so I'm just going to get the psychiatrist in, and we're actually going to admit you. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. So,
okay.
Of course, I did have a choice. They
drag you off kicking and screaming.
I mean, she said, we can go to there, but if you feel like you want, you know, help, this is the place to start. So I guess that's when I was like, oh, okay. So all those things that I was ignoring or brushing under the carpet, probably should have paid a bit more attention to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of quite prevalent in our society, that we all want to kind of look like we're keeping everything together. And, you know, Ian and I were also discussing prior to everything rolling that it kind of starts off from a childhood time, and that expectation to look a certain way and with a certain way. And, you know, when it gets to the point where we're kind of like, oh, not really dealing with it, we don't really have the option to be able to say, I need some assistance.
Yeah.
So people kind of came to you and were like, we're here for you, mental health professionals and stuff.
Yeah, it was difficult because, I mean, there was like quite clearly PTSD and depression that everyone's like, oh yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah.
You know, that's,
we all know how to deal with that,
that's
don't we? Yeah.
If you didn't have that, you know, something's wrong with you. Like, you weren't affected by what happened.
Then we've got a whole other different
but the one that slipped under was sort of the anxiety, and you know, I guess for a while people just thought I was really unfit because my heart rate was so high.
Yeah.
My resting heart rate was, you know, well over 100, and everyone's like, oh wow, she's so unfit.
Yeah, just sitting there and causing you effort.
Yes, it turns out that those sorts of things, and you know, that it all clicks together. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, the penny drops.
And I mean, there are other people that would be experiencing anxiety on a daily basis where they do have support from their family and friends, or you know, it's something that they're aware of and they're working on. So you know, you can kind of have a different combination of the type of support group. So mental health professionals were like, "Yep, you need help." Prior to that, you were sticking your head in the sand. What was everyone else around you doing, like, and what's the difference to them helping you now that it's been like this official? Because I feel like the diagnosis is when people kind of go, oh, all right then, well, we better start acting differently.
That's the thing, and that was mentioned. That partly, you know, and this is us saying to you that I guess there's a stigma because of the kind of person that I am, and not to blow my own trumpet, but you know,
I
am quite cognitive. I do have quite a high intellect. Everyone's sort of like, no, she's better than that. She's fine. You know, she'll get. And people don't expect me to have that sort of problem.
And you're probably the person supporting other people in your life.
And so it was one of those things where it's like, we know that there's a problem with her, but
she'll pull herself out.
Or you know, is it really that bad? She can fix it. You know, like I had in the past. She's got this. She's done it in the past. She's self-managed. She's self-soothed, and you know, I probably, in a different circumstance, probably could have done it again, but the circumstances around the accident, the injuries, and the fact that, you know, I lost my career that I spent half a decade building, and you know, my future goals and all of these things, it just sort of then turned to now everything's gone.
Yeah, so you're trying to manage the interim while also knowing that in the future everything that you were kind of going towards was getting really difficult. So, I mean, I hate that there was like such a big catalyst, but do you think that like even if you had people that were kind of coming around you and saying, hey, like, let's sit down, let's have a bit of a chat, you know, you're not acting the same, do you feel that might have made a difference to your own acceptance of what you were going through?
Look, it's difficult because I'm under no misconceptions that it wasn't a tricky time, and it was a combination, I guess, of one, they did do that, but not in a way that I could be responsive to at that time. And in fact, the delivery or the way that it came to me, in fact, made things a bit worse for me.
I was afraid you might say that. That is quite common.
And I've said, you know, through art therapy and all of these things, that sometimes it's like when someone wants to untangle a knot, and you've got a big pile of knots, and someone comes to untangle it, if they just take the end and start pulling, half the time they make that knot tighter.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes it takes the time to sit down and figure out how to unloop them and twist them around, and that comes to that. It's not just about sort of sometimes, especially in my situation, it wasn't about asking, are you okay? Because that's such a loaded question, and it wouldn't it wouldn't be a sort of like, are you okay? I'd be like, well, no, obviously I'm not. And then someone, you know, they'd have to sit there and hear it. And sometimes, a lot of the time, especially when it was after burying my head in the sand, when someone says, well, why aren't you okay? I would sit there knowing that they wouldn't like the answer to that question. So for me, it was just easier to not say it. And open that can of worms with my family and my friends, and you know, I still do that. Like I can't escape that, but aware that I am protecting them and their feelings by not saying what I need to be said. I look back and I'm like, look, I probably made it harder for myself as well, in thinking I was making it easier, and it just ends up in a, you know, they weren't doing anything wrong. essentially they were coping with it and they were doing their best,
Yeah.
but it wasn't that they were doing anything wrong, it was that they were doing something wrong with me.
And I think that that's a very important thing to highlight, is that obviously people are going to have a lot of people that care about them when you're going through any type of, you know, mental health battle, and that everyone is just kind of trying to do their best. You know, it's something that we're aware of, and the whole point of and how great it is that you guys are here to be able to talk about this is that we want to be able to, you know, share that everyone's kind of got a bit of a different perspective when it's coming to this. And you know, they're probably thinking, oh, we can't get through to it, and you're like, oh, I can't explain how I'm feeling. Like, how frustrating is that for everyone involved?
And
so,
especially with anxiety, I find, because it's not just a state of mind. It is you have this physical manifestation, and you know, as I said, my heart would be racing, and my body would genuinely think I was under threat. So I'd be drawing blood away from my extremities, and in the case of an injury, that would cause extreme pain.
so similar to what
Yeah.
I go through. Your body's just like, oh, we need to protect ourselves.
That's right, and you know, so sometimes someone would be there poking because they want to help, and I'm sitting here saying, no, you're making it worse. But that's not what someone who wants to help is going to hear.
Yeah, and then they're like, well, I don't want to help you anymore.
Yeah, that's precisely, and this is why no one asked you, this is why no one helps you, and I'm like, oh, okay, so now, and that reinforces, don't do it.
Exactly.
And so, and that comes into that anxiety, then I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to bury my head now. I'm going around in that circle of who I am.
You can definitely hear, what Ian was described in the same way that you behaved. So,
yes.
oh, good, you know something. You know what you're talking about. So, then when, you know, doctors are like, we're here, we've got treatment. Did you follow everything that they told you, or have you kind of dabbled in a little bit of finding your own solution to dealing with it?
I again probably encountered difficulty because as a cognitive person, I would listen to things and I would feel like there was a huge element of condescension, and I just don't respond to condescension.
They're just paying you lip service, and
I say that, and I think that comes to, you need to find the right person to help you, and that sort of tone, that sort of explanation will work for a lot of people, but it really made things worse for me.
Yeah.
So I did dig my heels in and sort of say, oh, I hate you all now, and sort of, I guess, coming back to, because the huge trigger for what people realised that someone realised that something was wrong is that I did actually take my dog everywhere with me. And I didn't realise that I was doing that. I thought I just wanted him around. You know, I'd walk out of the house and I'd be like, oh, I want to bring him with me.
Yeah.
And then I realised, hold on a second, I guess normal people don't take them to the supermarket or to the doctors, or, you know. And so when I was hospitalised, I sat there, and because I was still very highly strung, I wanted my dog insanely. And being intellectual, I knew what I had to say to get out. So I was saying the right things, even though I wasn't believing them. I was saying all the right things to get me out of there and back to my dog. So, and then I sort of realised, turned around, I'm like, oh, right, now, yeah, look, you have to realise there's something going on now.
Yeah, I guess it's hard with the hospitalisation situation, because I have, you know, people in our team have, that it kind of gets you to the point where you have to just stop everything and kind of breathe. I guess they're kind of forcing you to breathe in the best medical way that they can, and taking away all those distractions from you. But like for me, being a high functioning person, I was like, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be here. So you kind of, start doing it. I'm like, I'm fine now. I'm fine. I don't know who that crazy person was, but I'm completely fine. So it was
a lot of smiling and waving. That's like, no, I completely agree. That's right.
But
that'll work. I'll do that next time.
Art therapy, though, you mentioned that. Has that been more of a better path for you to kind of get some of those jittery feelings or whatever out?
Look, I mean, I enjoyed it prior anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I was a very artistic person, and the thing was that they told me I had to do something, and as again to appease the powers that be, I said, oh, okay, art therapy is doing really wonders for me. It's fantastic. It's solved all my problems. And I'm sitting here going, look, I'm still stressed.
Okay.
Even though I drew a bowl of fruit, I'm still stressed.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to admit to that.
So what's been the the key thing for you, your strategies or like little in the moment coping mechanisms, like the short term or long term, you want to share?
Well, no, look, for me personally, it was understanding a lot more about the actual scientific response and understanding how the disorder actually worked.
Well,
and
it's
then,
good we've got you to understand then, isn't it?
So, you know, as I said, like understanding that, you know, for me, with anxiety, when someone, you know, says hello and I say, oh, good, thank you, that threat is the same as me walking down the street and being exposed to a lion. You know, that's when my brain's like, hold on a second, your life's in danger.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though I know they're not on par, my initial response is that they are. Mm-hmm. And I can tell my brain now that the faux pas, saying the wrong thing, is stupid, minute, that's fine. You'll get over that. But, you know, like that doesn't change the fact that my body still sometimes takes a bit to catch up.
Yeah.
So being able to understand it and talk myself through it, again, I guess being cognitive is that to being able to work through it and you know, that's helped a lot. So
yeah, so you've basically gone through, I guess, a similar journey to what you would have described, is that kind of just had to stop, take stock, and then you've kind of done your own education, self-examination about what your behaviours are.
Yeah.
But someone that may not have the capability to kind of examine, because I kind of think of the brain as like the computer. You're playing chess against the computer's always going to win because it knows what's going on. So you're trying to like trick it. So I would say the benefit for me is being able to bounce off my kind of high functioning thoughts and being like, explain this to me, you know, and having someone to delve into that with. But I also understand with you, I was kind of like, I don't want to talk to anyone about it. I don't want to be in a group discussing it. I just need to know what's going on with me. So yeah, through a different method and stuff like that, and you found that obviously not everything that health professionals suggest to you is something that's going to be suitable for your own journey.
It's impossible to have one person be the right person for everyone to speak to.
Of course, yeah.
That is impossible. You know, that can never happen. There will never be one person that every single person in the world is able to talk to. Mm-hmm. You may be close, but it's not going to happen. So you do have to find the right person. And I am very lucky, and I think she's very, very clever. She found a way of getting me to talk without actually me realising that I was talking. You know, we just sit there talking. In fact, we talk about books and literature, and then all of a sudden we'd realise that, oh, hold on a second, she's making little notes, and like, oh, I said something then. I guess she's figured something out. She's a smart cookie.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, we are beings, as you said before, so we want to be treated as human beings. We don't want to get treated as the condition that you've got, that you're dealing with, because at the end of the day, you just want to be able to live your life.
Yes.
And, you know, have that kind of run as smoothly as you'd like to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for both of you, maybe a bit of an open discussion, but from a professional experience and from someone who, I mean, I guess we're all still kind of on our journeys, but from where you're both at and from what you've experienced, do you think that anxiety is curable?
Well, that's a good one, isn't it?
Like, is it something that you're going to be...
I think it's manageable. As I said, I'm aware of what is happening to my body now.
Yeah.
But, you know, because of what happened in my life, there is always going to be a response. You know, I can't, as you said, we can't trick our brains. I like to think I have great control over mine, but it still runs rampant sometimes. And
It's still the one in control.
Yeah, so sometimes, you know, it might be a split second for it to realise, you know, as I said, I might say something stupid and all of a sudden I think that the sky is falling. And a split second later my brain's like, oh no, it's not, but my body hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's the big thing about anxiety is it's not just a mental disorder. It is, you do have those physical manifestations and they are something that you have to cope with as well.
Yeah.
You know, and so someone just saying, oh, calm down, you know, why you worked up is not necessarily going to help, because they may already know, but their body hasn't caught up. Their body hasn't processed that information yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, when your heart's racing and someone's just saying, just calm down, that can trigger a whole new cycle, and then you start thinking, oh, I should have been calm already. And then you're back into that and you're like, oh, well, if I should have been calm, so maybe I'm overreacting. And then you're under threat again. So
Yeah, so it's just basically having the tools, having the knowledge, and continually trying your best to be able to apply them. And I mean, I can also say this from my own personal experience that sometimes you're going to stuff up. Sometimes, you know, you're not going to be fully in control of what you're doing. But the realization is the most important thing.
That's the big thing about the control. I'm like,
Well, I think what you said was really good before about the nervous system. You know, like it's hardwired into your nervous system, especially if you've had a traumatic effect.
Yes.
So, you know, that nervous system is on edge all the time. So, you know, you start to become more aware of that. And I think the other thing is that people think who haven't had that type of experience, this is something you're going to get over. At some point you're going to get over it, you know, and that's part of our mentality as well. Rather than, no, you never get over this. What you do is you learn how to manage it well. You learn how to have command over yourself when this comes up. And you get better and better at that over the years, you know.
So kind of like lifting weights. You know, you might have a weak body, you might have like that slight kind of
it's like a muscle in a sense.
Well, that's a huge thing. Is your brain is a muscle. You know,
that's right.
You need to. It has to be. If you want it to change in any way, or if you want something to work better than it already does, you have to exercise that portion. And you know, that's things like meditation or the art therapy or whatever. Or for myself, it was the understanding and the you know. I don't want to say overthinking because there is a negative connotation, but the processing of that.
Analysation.
Integration.
Looking at every angle and understanding that it is different, but for me this is how I'm going to make it better.
Yeah. And that comes down to acceptance.
Yeah.
So, you know, the bottom line is you've got to accept what's going on for you, you've got to accept what's happening, and then you can work with something. If you can't accept it, you're in a battle with it all the time, and that's just going to increase the anxiety.
That's it. And I guess as well, on that note, for myself with the anxieties, I have to accept that other people aren't always going to understand it.
No, that's right. They don't have the skills or the capacity to, and you've got to give them some compassion.
That's right.
Yeah, you've got to do what you can do in your own wheelhouse to work on that.
Yeah.
And hopefully the rest will flow.
That's
right. Thank you so much. I think we're just going to leave it there. I know that I could definitely talk to both of you for a really long time about how it plays out, where it started from, where we're going. But I think that we've got the key points is that overall, if you're dealing with it, there is going to be help that's out there. It may take a little bit of rejigging to kind of get whatever's going to be suitable for you. And that it's just it's a journey. Like everyone can jump on the journey at any time that they want, and kind of just start working from there.
Yeah,
cool. Great. Well, thank you so much for just being honest and open. I know that it's it's a tough subject to talk about, but we're all tackling it. And I appreciate you being on our podcast.
Thank you.
So my favourite coping strategy for dealing with anxiety that I use myself and also teach my clients is to realise that the feedback loop that they've got caught up in, this mental feedback loop that's going on, and the fear and the worry and concern about the future and what's about to happen, and this feeling of being under attack, is to realise that this is not me. And I actually use the mantra and say to myself, this is not me, this is not me, this is what I am experiencing. So rather than identifying directly with the thing that's going on, you distinguish yourself from it. So you start to realize that you're the one experiencing it rather than the one who's in the thick of it. So just by doing that, you start to separate yourself a little bit from the experience. And by then what you can do is you can start to breathe. You can start to bring yourself back to your breath. And you can start to slow your breath down, because your breath's moving so fast at this point that you need to slow it down. You're taking very fast in-breaths and hardly any out-breath when you're in anxiety. So you've got to bring your breath back into balance. You've got to bring it back. So you're bringing back. And then once you start to do that, then what you can do is also start to consciously be in your body. You can start to feel what's there rather than being at the effect of it. You can start to actually let yourself feel it, and you can allow it. You can accept it and you can allow it. So, that's quite a lot to say, but basically the interruption point is to say, this is not me. and then to allow yourself to breathe into it and to feel it and allow it to happen and to accept it. And when you can accept it, when you're not making yourself wrong about it or beating yourself up about it, you just allow it to be, then you can accept that it has a purpose. Anxiety actually fulfills a purpose, and its purpose is energy. It's energy moving through you that wants to get out, that wants to be expressed. And so that's what I teach my clients, and that's my favorite coping mechanism for anxiety.
Okay, now, after our discussion topics, if you or anyone that you know is experiencing any of these symptoms or would like to get some more information or help around how to deal with anxiety, we do have some links below. So please feel free to check those out, and we hope that you join us for our next episode where we'll be discussing depression and how to manage that. Thank you.